286, 287. In August 2023, Intel terminated the acquisition as it failed to obtain approval from Chinese regulators within the 18-month transaction deadline. 288, 289. In May 2022, Intel announced that they have acquired Finnish graphics technology firm Siru Innovations. The firm, founded by ex-AMD Qualcomm mobile GPU engineers, is focused on developing software and silicon building blocks for GPUs made by other companies and is set to join Intel's fledgling accelerated computing systems and graphics group. 290. In May 2022, it was announced that Ericsson and Intel are pooling research and development to create high-performing Cloud RAN solutions. The organizations have pooled to launch a tech hub in California, US. The hub focuses on the benefits that Ericsson Cloud RAN and Intel technology can bring to improving energy efficiency and network performance, reducing time to market, and monetizing new business opportunities such as enterprise applications. 291. Ultrabook Fund, 2011. In 2011, Intel Capital announced a new fund to support startups working on technologies in line with the company's concept for next-generation notebooks. 292. The company is setting aside a $300 million fund to be spent over the next 3 to 4 years in areas related to Ultrabooks. 292. Intel announced the Ultrabook concept at Computex in 2011. The Ultrabook is defined as a thin, less than 0.8 inches, 2 cm, thick, 293, notebook that utilizes Intel processors, 293, and also incorporates tablet features such as a touch screen and long battery life. 292, 293, at the Intel Developers Forum in 2011. 4 Taiwan ODMs showed prototype Ultrabooks that used Intel SIV bridge chips. 294. Intel plans to improve power consumption of its chips for Ultrabooks, like new Ivy bridge processors in 2013, which will only have 10W default thermal design. Power. 295. Intel's goal for Ultrabooks price is below $1,000. Winking sad smiley. 293. However, according to two presidents from Acer and Compaq, this goal will not be achieved if Intel does not lower the price of its chips. 296. Open source support. Intel has a significant participation in the open source communities since 1999. 297. For example, in 2006 Intel released MIT licensed X.org drivers for their integrated graphic cards of the i965 family of chipsets. Intel released free BSD drivers for some networking cards. 298. Available under a BSD-compatible license. 299. Which were also ported to OpenBSD. 299. Binary firmware files for non-wireless Ethernet devices were also released under a BSD license allowing free redistribution. 300. Intel ran the Marblin project until the 23rd of April, 2009, when they handed the project over to the Linux Foundation. Intel also runs the LessWhat's.org campaigns. 301. However, after the release of the wireless products called Intel Pro /Wireless 2100, 2200 BG /2225 BG /2915 ABG and 3945 ABG in 2005. Intel was criticized for not granting freer distribution rights for the firmware that must be included in the operating system for the wireless devices to operate. 302. As a result of this, Intel became a target of campaigns to allow free operating systems to include binary firmware on terms acceptable to the open source community. Linspire Linux creator Michael Robertson outlined the difficult position that Intel was in releasing to open source, as Intel did not want to upset their large customer Microsoft. 303. Theodor Rath of OpenBSD also claimed that Intel is being an open source fraud after an Intel employee presented a distorted view of the situation at an open source conference. 304. In spite of the significant negative attention Intel received as a result of the wireless dealings, the binary firmware still has not gained a license compatible with free software principles. 305. Intel has also supported other open source projects such as Blender 306 and Open3D Engine. 307. Corporate identity. Logo used from 1968 to 2006. Logo used from January 3, 2006, 308, 309, to September 2, 2020, 310. Logo since September 2, 2020. In its history, Intel has had 3 logos. The first Intel logo featured the company's name stylized in all lowercase, with the letter E dropped below the other letters. The second logo was inspired by the Intel Inside campaign featuring a swirl around the Intel brand name. 311. The third logo, introduced in 2020, was inspired by the previous logos. It removes the swirl as well as the classic blue color in almost all parts of the logo except for the dot in the I. 310. Intel Inside. Intel has become one of the world's most recognizable computer brands following its long-running Intel Inside campaign. The idea for Intel Inside came out of a meeting between Intel and one of the major computer resellers MicroAge. 312. In the late 1980s, Intel's market share was being seriously eroded by upstart competitors such as Advanced Micro Devices, now AMD, Zilog, and others who had started to sell their less expensive microprocessors to computer manufacturers. This was because, by using cheaper processors, manufacturers could make cheaper computers and gain more market share in an increasingly price-sensitive market. In 1989, Intel's Dennis Carter visited MicroAge's headquarters in Tempe, Arizona to meet with MicroAge's VP of Marketing, Ron Mayen. MicroAge had become one of the largest distributors of Compaq, IBM, HP, and others, and thus was a primary although indirect driver of demand for microprocessors. Intel wanted MicroAge to petition its computer suppliers to favor Intel chips. However, Mayen felt that the marketplace should decide which processors they wanted. Intel's counter-argument was that it would be too difficult to educate PC buyers on why Intel microprocessors were worth paying more for. 312. The Intel Inside logist from 1991 to 2003. The Intel Inside logist from 2003 to 2006. Mayen felt that the public did not really need to fully understand why Intel chips were better, they just needed to feel they were better. So Mayen proposed a market test. Intel would pay for a MicroAge billboard somewhere saying, "If I are buying a personal computer, make sure it has Intel Inside." In turn, MicroAge would put Intel Inside stickers on the Intel-based computers in theirs to res in that area. To make the test easier to monitor, Mayen decided to do the test in Boulder, Colorado, where it had a single store. Virtually overnight, the sales of personal computers in that store dramatically shifted to Intel-based PCs. Intel very quickly adopted Intel Inside as its primary branding and rolled it out worldwide. 312. As is often the case with computer lore, other tidbits have been combined to explain how things evolved. Intel Inside has not escaped that tendency, and there are other explanations that had been floating around. Intel's branding campaign started with the Computer Inside tagline in 1990 in the US and Europe. The Japan chapter of Intel proposed an Intel in it tagline and kicked off the Japanese campaign by hosting Nikkei-Con, meaning station concert in Japanese, at the Tokyo Railway Station Dome on Christmas Day, December 25, 1990. Several months later, the Computer Inside incorporated a Japan idea to become Intel Inside, which eventually elevated to the worldwide branding campaign in 1991, by Intel marketing manager Dennis Carter. 313, a case study, Inside Intel Inside, was put together by Harvard Business School. 314, the 5-note jingle was introduced in 1994 and by its 10th anniversary was being heard in 130 countries around the world. The initial branding agency for the Intel Inside campaign was Dale & Smith White Advertising of Salt Lake City. 315. The Intel Swirl logo is the work of Dale & Smith White art director Steve Grigg under the direction of Intel President and CEO Andy Grove. The Intel Inside advertising campaign sought public brand loyalty and awareness of Intel processors in consumer computers. 316. Intel paid some of the advertisers' costs for an ad that used the Intel Inside logo and Xylo Marimba jingle. 317. In 2008, Intel planned to shift the emphasis of its Intel Inside campaign from traditional media such as television and print to newer media such as the Internet. 318. Intel required that a minimum of 35% of the money it provided to the companies in its co-op program be used for online marketing. 318. The Intel 2010 annual financial report indicated that $1.8 billion, 6% of the gross margin and nearly 16% of the total net income, was allocated to all advertising, with Intel Inside being part of that. 319. Intel jingle. /new staff /with /remove time _signature _engraver /relative C /time 3 /2 tempo 4 equals 133 /set score. Tempo hidden not equals #t /set staff. MIDI instrument equals #marimba des 2 /fermata des ages des as 2. The DDGD8 xylophone / marimba jingle known as the Intel Ball 320. Used in Intel advertising was produced by Music Van Eugen and written by Walter Wertower, once a member of the Austrian 1980s sampling band Edelweiss. 321. The Intel jingle was made in 1994 to coincide with the launch of the Pentium. It was modified in 1999 to coincide with the launch of the Pentium 3, although it overlapped with the 1994 version, which was first out in 2004. Advertisements for products featuring Intel processors with prominent MMX branding featured a version of the jingle with an embellishment, shining sound, after the final note. The jingle was remade a second time in 2004 to coincide with the new logo change. Again, it overlapped with the 1999 version and was not mainstreamed until the launch of the core processors in 2006. With the melody unchanged. Another remake of the jingle debuted with Intel's new visual identity. 322. The company has made use of numerous variants since its rebranding in 2020, while retaining the mainstream 2006 version. Processor naming strategy. In 2006, Intel expanded its promotion of open specification platforms beyond Centrino, to include the AIV Media Center PC and the business desktop Intel vPro. In mid-January 2006, Intel announced that they were dropping the long-running Pentium name from their processors. The Pentium name was first used to refer to the 5P core Intel processors and was done to comply with court rulings that prevent the trademarking of a string of numbers, so competitors could not just call their processor the same name, as had been done with the prior 386 and 486 processors, both of which had copies manufactured by IBM and AMD. They phased out the Pentium names from mobile processors first, when the new Yona chips, branded Core Solo and Core Duo, were released. The desktop processors changed when the Core 2 line of processors were released. By 2009, Intel was using a good better best strategy with Celeron being good, Pentium better, and the Intel Core family representing the best the company has to offer. 323, according to spokesman Bill Calder, Intel has maintained only the Celeron brand, the Atom brand for netbooks and the vPro lineup for businesses. Since late 2009, Intel's mainstream processors have been called Celeron, Pentium, Core i3, Core i5, Core i7, and Core i9 in order of performance from lowest to highest. The first generation Core products carry a 3-digit name, such as i5 750, and the second generation products carry a 4-digit name, such as the i5 2500, and from 10th generation onwards, Intel processors will have a 5-digit name, such as i910900K for desktop. In all cases, a K at the end of it shows that it is an unlocked processor, enabling additional overclocking abilities, for instance, 2500K. vPro products will carry the Intel Core i7 vPro processor or the Intel Core i5 vPro processor name. 324, in October 2011, Intel started to sell its Core i7-2700K Sunday Bridge chip to customers worldwide. 325, since 2010, Centrino is only being applied to Intel's WiMAX and Wi-Fi technologies. 324, in 2022, Intel announced that they are dropping the Pentium and Celeron naming schemes for their desktop and laptop entry-level processors. The Intel processor branding will be replacing the old Pentium and Celeron naming schemes starting in 2023. 326, 327, in 2023, Intel announced that they will be dropping the I in their future processor markings. For example, products such as Core i9 will now be called Core 9. Ultra will be added to the endings of processors that are in the higher end, such as Core Ultra 9. 328, 329, typography. Neosong Intel is a customized version of Neosong based on the Neosong and Neotech, designed by Sebastian Lester in 2004. 330, it was introduced alongside Intel's rebranding in 2006. Previously, Intel used Helvetica as its standard typeface in corporate marketing. Intel Clear is a global font announced in 2014 designed for to be used across all communications. 331, 332. The font family was designed by Red Peak Branding and Dalton Mug. 333, initially available in Latin, Greek and Cyrillic scripts. It replaced Neosong Intel as the company's corporate typeface. 334, 335, Intel Clear Hebrew, Intel Clear Arabic were added by Dalton Mug Limited. 336, Neosong Intel remained in law going to mark processor type and socket on the packaging of Intel's processors. In 2020, as part of a new visual identity, a new typeface, Intel One, was designed. It replaced Intel Clear as font used by the company in most of its branding. However, it is used alongside Intel Clear typeface. 337, In logo, it replaced Neosong Intel typeface. However, it is still used to mark processor type E and socket on the packaging of Intel's processors. Intel brand book. It is a book produced by Red Peak Branding as part of new brand identity campaign, celebrating Intel's achievements.